what gangs were originally supposed to do, which is protect families, protect neighborhoods, protect women and children from these oppressors, they would shit their pants because unity is dangerous to any system built on control. Now, here's the part where people get uncomfortable.
Antigua and Barbuda, which is my host country, Jamaica as well, but Antigua and Barbuda is where my grandparents are from. Bahamas, Barbados, Belize, Dominique.
Jamaica is not an African nation. It's not a black country. We identify as an ethnically diverse society.
So which 17 countries would be affected? African nations, Nigeria, Kenya and Ghana are among the countries which have called for compensation.
So there is an opposition party in the UK called the Reform Party, and they are saying that they will block visas and temporary visas for countries that are pushing for reparations, because they feel when we push for it and we let the UN agree that they should pay reparations to black people, their economy will collapse, and they don't want that. So they will cancel visas, or they will block visas for about 17 countries, together with Ghana, Nigeria, and most of the Caribbean countries. Also, how did Argentina unalived their black people? I have videos to show you on that. Don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe. You don't lose anything by liking, so just give the video a thumbs up. Let's go into the video, watch, come back and talk.
Reform UK would block visas from anyone from countries which have demanded reparations over slavery. This would halt legal migration from 17 countries that are calling for financial compensation over Britain's role in the slave trade. The ban would block people from getting work, study and temporary visas. Reform Zia Youssef has said the bank is closed and the door is locked for anyone who wanted to use history as a weapon to drain our treasury. So which 17 countries would be affected? African nations, Nigeria, Kenya and Ghana are among the countries which have called for compensation, as well as 11 Caribbean countries including the Bahamas, Barbados and Jamaica. Reform's announcement comes as the government and the royal family face pressure to agree to talks on reparations. Experts have estimated these would amount to trillions of pounds. Starmer previously rejected reparations when meeting Caribbean nations at the Commonwealth Summit in 2024. King Charles has never commented or made any formal apology for the slave trade on behalf of the UK, but he did make a speech conveying his greatest sorrow and regret at colonial wrongdoings during a visit to Kenya in 2023.
Here today to talk to us about Reform UK, talking about banning visas from countries who are demanding reparations from Britain. Now, the problem here is that we are talking about a number of Commonwealth countries in the Caribbean, aren't we? How do you think this is going to go down with His Majesty the King?
Well, we're most concerned about doing the right thing for the British people. Look, there's a racket going on now for years. Countries are lining up, claiming in some cases trillions of pounds in reparations for supposed crimes from centuries ago. Britain was the first major power to abolish the slave trade in 1807 and spent almost 2% of its national income for 60 years enforcing that ban on the high seas, lost thousands of heroic soldiers through sailors through the West Africa Squadron. So what Reform is saying is simple. Any country, if Reform's in government, any country that makes a vexatious demand like this for reparations, which is obviously insulting and outrageous, we're not going to tolerate it anymore and just allow Britain to be slapped around. And British taxpayers will no longer just be an ATM for ethnic grievances from across the world. We will ban visa issuances to nationals of those countries. And over the last 20 years, Tory and Labour governments have issued 3.8 million visas to nationals of those countries and £6.6 billion in aid. That'll go to
Reform consultant Zia Youssef. I don't actually know what his former job is. He's had several jobs. He's also said he left the party, then he came back to the party, but that's not important. He says he will block the visa from any countries that are attempting to demand slavery reparations from the UK. What's really interesting is right, this conversation comes up every year because of Independence Day, and every country around the world has understood the illegal pillaging of their resources and their people over a very long period of time, where people were resources at the time. But they've noticed what that trend was. They've noticed the value that it's been to these new countries. They've observed the treatment of the countries that stole, took and pillaged the host country, and now they want some form of repair. Now, what's really interesting is I just think that Britain mismanaged the Commonwealth incredibly. By the way, if you get to the point where you have leadership and ownership of all these different colonies, and maybe you cannot afford to maintain them after the Second World War because you've used all your money, but the strategic alliance you could have gone into for resources would have been astronomical if it was managed properly, but it hasn't been. Anyway, the greater point is that acting as a support network for these countries in the global stage would have meant that all of these countries would have had education, they would have had infrastructure, they would have had a share of their own resources, and Britain would still be profiting from the global. And I'm pretty sure some of these countries would take that benefit. Some of the citizens will definitely take that benefit back today because they're unhappy with how their countries are run as I think third world is a outdated term, but a oppressed nation on a global scale. Antigua and Barbuda, which is my host country, Jamaica as well, but Antigua and Barbuda is where my grandparents are from. Bahamas, Barbados, Belize, Dominica, Ghana, Grenada, Guyana, Haiti, Jamaica, Kenya.
Why does Argentina have 0 black people when South America is so diverse? In 1770, Argentina began a policy of blanqueamiento, meaning whitening. The first step was conscription. Black men were drafted first and sent front lines during the Wars of Independence and Triple Alliance. The second step was division. Black women were allowed into European communities while men were not. This was social programming, to push black women into white marriages, slowly diluting their color. The third step was poverty. Black men were denied education and kept poor so that diseases like yellow fever could wipe them out. Finally, Buenos Aires was styled after Paris, and European men were fully funded for migration and marriages. Argentina went from 90% color in 1770 to less than 1% now.
You know why there's no black people in Argentina? There's not that many black people in Argentina.
I don't think there's any. You ever seen a black Argentinian?
Because they murder them all.
Yeah. I heard that they were going to a war that they knew they were going to lose. So they enlisted all the black Argentinians because they knew they're all going to die. Isn't that crazy? So they don't have the best history of that.
And they're based off more like people from Sweden and Germany. That's why a bunch of Nazis escaped there. Well, a lot of people know, but they all moved to Brazil.
And that's why Brazil and Argentina have one of the biggest rivalries.
And there you go. That was Argentinian calling a Brazilian a monkey.
You want me to dive deeper?
Going on.
Yeah, keep going, bro.
Yeah, keep going.
People from Japan. You know the history of Japan?
So for those of y'all that don't know, I'm half Argentinian and half Brazilian. I'm Argentinian on my mom's side. And a lot of people wonder, why are a majority of Argentinians white? They're like, that and Uruguay and like southern Brazil are like the only parts of Latin America. Oh, and Chile are the only parts of Latin America that are like predominantly white. So a lot of people wonder, why is it that Argentina is like the majority, is like the main country in Latin America that's majority white? Where the fuck did they come from? And that's a good question. And I'm about to tell y'all why Argentina is predominantly white. And it's because Argentina didn't used to be white. It used to be all indigenous people. But guess what happened? The Spanish colonizers pulled up to Argentina and caused a mass genocide of the natives. They're like, wiped them out completely and just made it this country, this safe haven for European immigrants to come in from Italy, from Eastern Europe, from all different parts of Europe, from Spain, everywhere. And that's why Argentina is a majority white now, because it was ethnically cleansed by the Spanish colonizers.
There's 195 countries that are recognized in the world. Out of 195 countries, only 8 countries were not colonized by white people. Only 8. I don't think y'all understand. There's 195 countries in the world, and only 8 of them were not colonized by white people. It is not because they didn't try, they just didn't succeed. You want to know which countries that didn't happen to? Thailand, Japan, Liberia, Ethiopia, Nepal, Bhutan, Iran, and China. Most people do not know that. The average person does not know that. This is not common knowledge. There's not a single place on earth, and when I say stuff, there's not a single place on earth that these people have not stuck their fucking dirty ass hands in and tried to fuck it up.
So this March, this devil of Belgium, this blue-eyed devil of Belgium, who is now 93 years of age, murders Patrice Lumumba back 65 years ago. 65 years ago. And he never get charged. Never. No, they're bringing up charges against him. Remember, this man actually confessed that you can't find none of Patrice Lumumba's body. He said he chopped Patrice Lumumba's body up. The only thing they could find of Patrice Lumumba was his tooth. His tooth. That's it. One of his tooth. They brutally murdered this man. Remind me of Tommy Rice. No difference. And that lady, that bitch, that fucking devil didn't get charged either. You see what I'm saying? So it's like we can't expect the same people, the same devil that been killing us ever since they escaped on this planet to actually give us justice. It's never gonna work like that. We have to fucking take it. We have to take it. They're not gonna. This man lives his whole fucking life. He lives all the way to 93. That's like a double lifetime for some people. He lives his whole life. Patrice Lumumba didn't get the same privilege to live and see his family, his kids grow up. But this fucking devil live his whole life. See, him getting charged right now doesn't really... It's good, but at the same time, this man only got 2 years probably left. Probably months.
The photo up top is Syria before white intervention, and on the bottom, Syria after white intervention. This is Iraq before white intervention, after white intervention. This is Libya before white intervention, after white intervention. And listen, we can go through an entire list of nations that have been negatively impacted by white intervention or white influence all across this entire earth. But my question is, why is it that when you see these rundown, terrible conditions right here in America, you blame the people that are forced to live in these conditions as being responsible for the conditions, as if blacks and Hispanics aren't victims to the same violence, cruelty, deception, and instability that they have carried out everywhere else in the world? See, you blame black people and Hispanics and Native Americans for the poor and terrible warlike conditions that we live in here in America, in our neighborhoods, when we have been the most consistent recipients of their cruelty, their violence, their interference. And the most diabolical part of all of this, you destroy our communities, then you blame us for our communities being run down and destroyed, and then make us believe that we need you to build strong, civilized communities and neighborhoods, because clearly we're not capable of that, right? We're not capable of doing that on our own, right? Yeah, see, that's a lie. The photo up top is Black Wall Street, the black segregated section of Tulsa, Oklahoma, completely built, funded, operated by black people. And the photo on the bottom is Black Wall Street after white intervention. White people, you're not the builders of society and civilization. You're the destroyers of it.
You guys know that gangs were originally created to protect marginalized neighborhoods from racist oppressors and white supremacists. And this was super dangerous to the elites and to the system. So they had to find a way to infiltrate these neighborhoods and these gangs that were originally protectors of these neighborhoods, essentially. So the government infiltrated and planted drugs, guns, violence, chaos, and division between these gangs, which resulted in more gang wars, Bloods versus Crips, MS-13 versus this other gang. This is my block. No, this is my block. And if you dare step on it, I'm fucking shooting you. What you guys have to understand is that they want you guys fighting and killing each other. That was their whole goal, because they're terrified of you guys helping each other and protecting the neighborhoods from them. And whether you guys believe every single detail or not, look at the outcome. Look at what actually happened. Look at how communities that were once about protection turned into survival zones where people are turning on each other. And you guys are shooting and killing each other over a block that was never yours to begin with. It was owned by them, the government, the same ones that planted these drugs and guns into your neighborhoods. Even if somebody somebody watches this video and goes, no, I don't believe that. Okay, cool. Then explain why the same patterns keep showing up in the same places over and over again for decades. Explain why resources disappear, why violence spikes, why systems that are supposed to help somehow always fall short in the same communities. And you guys might have grown up in these neighborhoods, but you guys don't own these neighborhoods and these blocks. It's owned by the same ones that wanted you guys killing each other in the first place. And that's the part nobody wants to really sit with because it's uncomfortable. It forces you to question everything you were told about how things just are. Do you guys seriously believe that these black neighborhoods and these Latino neighborhoods and these marginalized communities just woke up one day and decided to start forming gangs to kill each other? Like, really think about that. Do you guys think entire communities just randomly chose chaos, chose violence, chose destruction for no reason? Or is it more realistic that pressure, environment, lack of opportunity, trauma, and systems that were either neglected or intentionally mismanaged created conditions where that became the outcome? You guys realize the whole reason the government planted these guns and drugs and gang wars and violence in these neighborhoods to keep the community divided is because they are terrified of gangs standing together and realizing who the real enemy is. You know why? Because they, the elites, the government, they benefit off division. They benefit off of that. Always. They had to create these systems to fund the prison systems and keep y'all divided and killing each other, because if y'all did exactly what gangs were originally supposed to do, which is protect families, protect neighborhoods, protect women and children from these oppressors, they would shit their pants, because unity is dangerous to any system built on control. Now, here's the part where people get uncomfortable. It's not just about them. It's also about what happens after the damage is done. Because once a system sets something in motion, whether it was intentional or just neglect or both, it doesn't even need to keep interfering. People start continuing the cycle themselves. Trauma starts raising trauma. Pain starts raising pain. And now you've got generations born into environments they did not choose, reacting to conditions they did not create, being judged for outcomes they were pushed into. And then people on the outside point and say, see, that's just how they are. No, that's how the environment shaped them. That's what happens when you mix survival with no real support, no tools, no resources, no safe spaces to express this pain. When you mix pain with no real healing, when you mix pressure with no real outlet. And I'm not saying nobody has responsibility. I'm not saying people don't make choices. I'm saying you cannot talk about choices without talking about conditions. You cannot talk about behavior without talking about environment. You cannot talk about outcomes without talking about what led there. And that's the part people skip, because it's easier to judge than to understand. It's easier to label than to dig deeper. It's easier to say, oh my gosh, they're the problem, than to ask, what created the problem? And that's where everything stays stuck, because if you never address the root, you'll be fighting the symptoms forever. So what's the actual solution? It's not pretending none of this exists. It's not blindly blaming one side or the other. It's awareness. I say this in every video. It's people actually waking up to how division works. It's communities remembering what unity actually looks like. Not just saying it, but living it. It's people protecting each other again in real ways, not performative ways. It's breaking cycles consistently and consciously instead of unconsciously repeating them. And I know that's easier said than done, because you're asking people to unlearn survival patterns that were drilled into them since birth. You're asking people to trust again in environments that taught them not to. You're asking people to heal wounds they did not cause. That is not easy. That's not a walk in the park. That is not light work. That is some of the hardest shit a human can do. But it is the only way out. Because if not, the cycle just keeps feeding itself. New generation, same pain. New faces, same story. And the people benefiting from the division, they don't even have to do anything anymore. They don't have to do anything anymore. It runs on autopilot. This is not just about gangs. This is not just about neighborhoods. This is about understanding how systems, environment, trauma, and human behavior all connect. And once you see it, you really cannot unsee it. And once you can't unsee it, you've got a choice. Keep playing into it or start breaking it.
Jamaica is not an African nation. It's not a black country. We identify as an ethnically diverse society. People, please just stop it. Out of many, one people, Jamaicans. We do not hyphenate and we do not encourage separation by race. Number 2. This one's mine. This is my granny one. This one is my mom's. And this is grandpa. If you are planning a trip to Jamaica and you don't own one of these, you're going to have to book a return flight from where you came. These are the rules. I'm just laying it down for you. If you go to Jamaica and you don't have one of these, immigration will stamp your passport and give you a set amount of time that you're allowed to stay in Jamaica. And if you overstay your welcome, we put you back on a plane.
We suffer every day. Can you imagine? We have been here for centuries and we're still lagging around. If we to start a business in Jamaica, it's one of the hardest things to start a business. While the Chinaman come from China, come to Jamaica, start a business, non-tax for 5 years. And by the time the 5 years come when he start pay tax, he making cousin and he never and he uncle come and him gone. So and listen, this have been happening for centuries. So this have nothing to do with PNP or JLP. And you know, at the end of the day, none of them no want to fix it because all of them want us to, the black man, to stay at the back.
So you see, this is something that when I think about it, I clearly see the reason why these people, God should just give them a separate hell for them to just burn there, because honestly, you just don't understand. Other people that went through some of this genocide and whatever, the Jews, all of them have received their reparations. But when it's the turn of black people to take their reparations, just look at what they are saying, you know, and what they are telling us. You have enslaved someone and the person is trying to make things better for you guys to correct your wrongs and pay reparations to these enslaved or the descendants of the enslaved. Just look at what you are saying. You are going to block, like, this is an opposition party, or this is not the incumbent or even the king. This is an opposition party, and it's sad. And they are the same people. It seems like they are the same party that were talking about their economy will collapse and all that. I shared that video here. It's just sad. It's just sad. These people, listen, God should just give them a separate hell. Honestly, if so many people are going to hell, these people, they should give them a separate hell. And when it comes to Argentina, many people have actually said this, that they basically unalived most of the black people that were there. Because in this world, when you look at the world itself really well, black people are everywhere. Black people basically migrated to a lot of places, or almost all the continents. Black people are there. So sometimes you wonder, why is it that the black people in Argentina are less than probably 1%? They are even less than 1% now, currently. But this is what they did to black people. And I'm not so surprised. That's why they even voted against the reparation at the UN. So that is it. Thank you so much for watching.